Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Zach Young, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're joined by Candy Messer, a Clockwork-certified fractional COO who helps entrepreneurs reclaim time and financial freedom by building businesses that actually work for their owners. Candy partners with business owners who feel buried in the back end of their company, helping them streamline operations, clean up financials, and step away from day-to-day chaos without sacrificing growth. Very important. Her team specializes in full-service bookkeeping, payroll, sales tax, and compliance, operational consulting, and systems around delegation, SOPs, and automation. Candy, a very, very warm welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great episode. We have a lot to dive into. Before we do, I do like to start with your background, though. So before entrepreneurship, before starting your own company, can you walk us through what were you doing previously and what was really your inspiration for getting into this space?
Sure. Well, before I became an entrepreneur, I was working in corporate. I was what's called a full charge bookkeeper, which means I handled all aspects of the business on the financial side. So it could be helping invoice customers, receiving payments, inventory, reconciling, all of that. And someone knew what I did, and her husband had a business, and he had her helping with accounts receivable and invoicing, paying the bills, and reconciling. And she told me, I don't mind invoicing the customers, I don't mind paying the bills, but I hate reconciling the accounts and handling the rest of the books. Will you please help? And I wasn't sure, that that's what I wanted to do, but she literally begged me for months to help her. So I finally said yes. And then once I said yes, of course, I had to get my business license and get the software and buy all the things, and I was like, this is not going to make sense for me financially, because how much I have to pay out and how much I'm going to charge her, it's just really not going to make financial sense. So I was like, well, now I need to find a couple more clients to make it worthwhile. And so I would do those kind of on the side, of the real job, as I call it. And then after about a year and a half, my husband had said, your customers really appreciate what you're doing for them. I think at that point I had built up to like 7+ working, the corporate job. He's like, just quit your job, do your business and focus on growing that, which was a bit scary to give up a guaranteed paycheck. But he convinced me to do so. And that was, back in 2004. So I helped for about 18 months before I went out on my own. And then I did go to client locations at first. In 2005, I actually opened an office, and then I had people coming to me from them. And so, here we are all these years later, and we continue to help clients, giving them peace of mind so they could do the parts of the business they love.
I love that. And I just have to say, how valuable is a supportive spouse to an entrepreneur?
Very. And so many don't have that. I didn't really know a lot of entrepreneurs. I had one person in my life that had been an entrepreneur, but I didn't get to see him often. That was my grandfather. We lived in different states, and this was before all of the, social media and being able to Zoom like we are now. I mean, you have to call someone long distance and pay that fee or see them in person. So I didn't really see entrepreneurship really in front of me. And so it was a scary thing to like, okay, I'm going to be the one who has to do all the things and guarantee that we're making money. But he was definitely encouraging. And I hope that those who are in entrepreneurship have someone who can support them, whether it's a spouse or a friend or a family member.
Yeah, very important. There's lonely times. There's a lot of questioning yourself. There's a lot of, should I have quit my job and the stability? But, they'll help you through that process. That's for sure. I love that. So you hit your 20-year anniversary this year. Happy anniversary. Of course, that's a big one. I'm sure the business has changed over the years, right? But let's dive into the business today. I touched on it a little bit in the intro, but just walk us through, the type of work you guys are doing. What kind of companies are you typically partnering with? Everything like that.
Sure. Well, for the payroll side, we really focus on a lot of the smaller clients too, who a lot of times feel they're not seen, or it just, they're used to going to the big companies who are used to bigger, clients too, and feel like they're not really getting everything that they need. So we even have, maybe it's an owner of an S corporation that has to pay themselves reasonable compensation. We do have larger clients too. We have one client that has 7 restaurant locations, and he has about 170 staff. But we really like to help the small business owner. So I would say probably most of our clientele, maybe 80% of our clients on the payroll side are probably 15 employees or less, with the vast number of those actually being 5 or less. On the bookkeeping side of things, we help generally service-based entrepreneurs, with all of their bookkeeping, payroll. They could have sales tax if they do have some type of product. Again, I have that restaurant that, we have sales tax that has to be paid on that. But we generally don't do retail stores per se or manufacturing. We usually stay away from those and just kind of help. A lot of the people that we help are in, again, things like landscaping, medical offices. We don't do the medical billing, but we help medical offices and things like that. And then, as you touched on in the intro, I now am certified in a program that is teaching entrepreneurs how to step away from their businesses and have them run without them. So whether it's so you could take a real unplugged vacation and actually relax and breathe and not check your email and take the phone calls and, work just in a different location. Or maybe it's just because you want to test the business to see if it can run without you. What if something happened to you or a family member and you needed to step away? Could your business continue running without your day-to-day oversight and decision making?
That is a huge one for small business owners. I think the stat is, and I could be a little off here, but 90% of profitable small businesses will not sell due to owner dependency.
Yep.
I think that's
I've actually talked to people about that. Some people have been on my own podcast who've talked about that. And I do know someone who is in that field where she's trying to marry people who are looking for a business to buy and those who want to sell. And that's one of the factors is I don't want to buy someone's job. I want to buy an investment. And they aren't looking to step in and work those 40, 50, 60, 70 hours, a week that entrepreneurs often are working.
Yeah. If you are the business, if you're going to get an offer, I hope you like seller financing because that is coming in at 100% seller finance. It's tough. And so I brought that up because I wanted to ask, do you find that it's tough for these business owners to give up some of what they're doing, to be able to step back from the business? Is that something you have to help them overcome?
So I think there's a couple things that go into it. I think one of it sometimes is the mindset that no one is going to care about it as much as I do. So I have to be the one doing it because people are just coming for a job, right? And although that might have a kernel of truth in it, really people do care about your business. And if you are giving them the opportunity to thrive and you're empowering them to grow, that's a motivator for them as well, because it's not just I'm doing data entry and I'm going home, but you're giving them the opportunity for growth and giving them decision-making powers and all of that too. And it just really empowering your team. But really, we can't do it all anyway. We're the bottlenecks often in our own business, and we're preventing our company from growing if we have to be the one making all the decisions and all of that. But it's hard because, again, I started my business from scratch. It technically started in 2002. Actually, 2005 was when I changed the format. But I've been doing it a long time. If you look at how many years I've been doing it, and sometimes it's just hard to let go. And so when I first tested this in my own business, I started with a week away. I said, okay, I'm going to leave it in your hands. Don't reach out to me unless there's really an emergency. And I didn't hear from them that whole week. And when I came back and we had a debrief meeting, I was like, what problems did you have? Well, nothing really, but I was worried, like, okay, is there something going on they're not telling me? So at first we're just concerned about the success of the company. But there are things that could potentially wait a week for you to come back, right? So maybe there were some things that they held off. So for me, and testing this myself, I started with a week. Then a few months later, I did 2 weeks. And then a few months later, I did 3 weeks. And then a few months later, I did 4. And so everything pretty much in your business, in most cases, has to happen within that 4-week period. Now, there's a few annual things, of course, that come up, like 1099 processing or paying an insurance bill that maybe is once a year. But most of the things you have to do in your company are going to happen in those 4 weeks, whether it's sales calls or it is running payroll, whatever those things are. So by stepping away, you have to empower your team and you have to give them the information they need to do your job well, and so I think it's proper delegation is one of the keys. So instead of just assigning a task and expecting they're going to be able to do it, you have to give them everything they need to be successful.
Yeah. I think piggybacking off that, I think, and like you said, it's tough giving away some of your responsibility and checking your website. You've built out a pretty big team. How was
Mhm.
that process for you of, slowly but surely delegating out?
You know, I don't think I even knew all of the proper ways to delegate originally either. But it was different back then too, because I had someone, we had an office, and until I decided to have a fully remote team, and now my team is in multiple states. But originally, I had an office. I could have someone sit next to me. I could actually show them by doing the task, and then I could have them do the task, and I could watch what they were doing, and I could give them instant feedback at that time. Over time, as we've gone fully remote, it has made it a little bit more challenging. But again, we're giving them the information that they need to be able to do the job. So I have SOPs right now, and my staff does this for all of the work that we do too. So whether it's internal and it's admin, or it's client work, or it's something that I'm doing, there's a process and it's spelled out. It's not just something in my head, because that's one of the things too, is a lot of times owners have all the things in their head and nobody could do it because nothing is written down. So I had to create processes that if I'm going to hand off to someone, they actually can follow step by step. And some people like video. And so I also record a lot of times when I'm doing something. Some people like to have a written checklist. And so it's helpful to have things in a different format for different learners, and they can use the format that works best for them. But that's what I've had to do. And obviously, I have to find team that they desire to be able to be that person that can take initiative to find a solution as well, and not be someone that's so afraid that they're going to make a mistake that they don't attempt anything. And so it's not always easy to figure that out in the interviewing process, but that's one of the goals, is that I want to empower my staff. And so when I'm talking to someone who I'm hiring now, I will say, one of the goals of my company is that it runs without me. I need to be able to step away and have the company run, because if something were to happen to me, you need to have a job still, right? Or things like that. So letting them know, like, this is not just because I want to step away and have a vacation, because in those tests that I talked about, the 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, most of the time I wasn't even away on a quote unquote vacation. I just stepped away so that I said, the company has to run, and let's see what problems come up and what solutions that we need to have. So then the next time, we have even better operations. And so if something really were to happen, the operations manager could have reached out to me, but the staff can't just say, oh, I don't know the answer to this question, I'm going to reach out to Candy. Okay. But it's preparing that company again, so that if something were to happen to you or a family member, as the entrepreneur, your staff can still run the things that you would normally be in the middle of doing. And again, as you talked about exit planning, if you want to be able to step away and sell your business at some point, you can't be that bottleneck. So this is helping
Yeah.
you prepare for that.
I love that you're upfront with that about that with employees. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
great precedence to set about the business. But then also, I mean, say you're talking to a business owner and you tell them, "Hey, I took a month off and the business was perfectly fine."
Mm-hmm.
That's a great pitch right there. You don't really need to say much else because let's be honest, not a lot of
Yep.
them can say that. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Wow.
most of us, like I said, don't take real vacations. We work in a different location. Before I did this in my own company too, I had, an anniversary trip with my husband. And I remember checking email in the morning, and then we would, go off for hours, enjoying the sun, or, going to a nice restaurant or whatever. And then I would come back and I would check email, and I would make sure everything was good. And he wasn't really happy with that either. I wasn't really happy with that. But at the time, I felt, well, I need to make sure that I am able to answer those questions if a client, has a problem and staff isn't sure what to do. And I was like, I don't want that. And no one really wants that. And so let's figure out what we need to do. And thankfully, I found out about this book, and it's called Clockwork because it's written by Mike Michalowicz, who wrote the book Clockwork. Many people may recognize that name because he's written lots of books for entrepreneurs, including like Profit First, Get Different. But Clockwork was how to get your business to run without you, and not for you to take a vacation again per se, but so that the company really can run if needed. And as I was reading it and I started to implement it and I joined the accelerator program, I was like, there's so many people who are like me, who have worked a lot, who have taken quote unquote vacations, but worked on them and maybe had disappointed family members. And I want to be able to give them all of the information that I'm getting and how to apply it in their businesses so they can have the time to go watch their kids play sports or actually just enjoy a little bit of downtime and not feel like they're just constantly on the clock.
A lot of us got into entrepreneurship for more time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times it's the flip side. So
Exactly.
very important work, that's for sure. Look into the back end of the business for a second. How are these small businesses currently finding you guys to work with you?
Well, some people come to us through professional referrals because, again, if we're doing bookkeeping and payroll and things, CPAs, sometimes, there's mortgage brokers who need financial reports, right, to be able to give those loans, and people don't have their books in order. So often it will come through that type of relationship. Of course, people are searching online. Sometimes they may Google us or find us other ways. I have my own podcast, as I briefly mentioned before we even started. And my goal is really educate entrepreneurs to help them be successful, whether it's in finance, which of course we focus on, but I talk to people in other areas too. But people have been listening to my show, might find something that's helpful for them and they'll reach out. I had one instance where, back during COVID, there was originally the PPP, which was paycheck protection, or you had the ERTC, which is the employee retention tax credit, and you originally couldn't have both. And then that changed. So I actually did an episode once just saying, well, this is what you have to do to claim both. And then people started reaching out because of that. And they're like, oh, could you please help me? Even though I did an actual demo and I showed on the form exactly what you need to do to claim it, when it comes to government agencies, a lot of times people are very nervous, and so I was able to help many, many, many people, hundreds of people with that. And actually many thousands. I think that the videos I had over 100,000 views even just on how to do it. And so that's one of the ways that I'm able to help people as well. And then if they decide they don't want to do it on their own, they can reach out to us as well.
Yeah, most definitely. Where were those videos posted? Was it YouTube or what social media site?
YouTube. And then periodically, like each podcast episode, we do share to social media as well. We want to be able to get, our guests more audience as well too. So we'll share it on our platforms too. But the how-to videos, a lot of times I would just post it on YouTube and not necessarily share every single one, to social media, but people would be searching, right? How do I claim the ERTC or something? And then I would pop up. So
very nice. So we're at 20 plus years now. I'm curious about the future a little bit. Let's say 2026, because it is right around the corner. Are there any specific goals you set for yourself in the business for next year you're looking to achieve?
I think really what I'm now saying is I want to marry this time freedom and financial freedom, right? Because I've been saying we give peace of mind to business owners by handling the things they generally don't want to do in their business, but they have to. And that's, again, payroll compliance, 1099s, doing your bookkeeping so your taxes can be finalized. And then again, I went through the certification and started implementing in my own company, thinking so many need to understand this. So I would love to be able to work with entrepreneurs who are saying, I want to have that time freedom. I need to get my finances in order. My books are a mess. I'm spending too many hours of my own time, doing all the things, and I need some help. And so that's where I see, I'll be different too than some of the people who just do the bookkeeping and don't necessarily offer this operational training to help you exit your business. So that's where my passion lies now. And so I really want to start implementing that more. To really help those small business owners like me, just find that financial and time freedom.
Yeah, it's a huge need, that's for sure. Candy, where can the listeners find you? Where can they keep up with you online?
Sure, you can look at my website, abandp.com. Again, if you want to listen to episodes, you can find an actual podcast page on there too. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. If you're there and you want to touch base with me, reach out there.
Love it. Candy, pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And that will wrap up another inspiring episode of the Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go and connect with Candy and the company on all their social media website. Be sure to check out the podcast as well. All those links will be in the show notes and description down below. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're looking to scale your business, and you really want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with our team and discover how we went from 0 to 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.